Hey fam, what's good? What's good? I hope that you're all well and keeping safe. Welcome back to another one. Let's tap into this beautiful instrument called NASDAQ and see what we can potentially expect for this coming week, right? Now, we basically asked for the shorts and the shorts have found itself coming through, right? A beautiful 1,000+ put move back towards the downside. Amazing, right? Amazing. Now, what is up next? What is up next? Now, why did you find yourself start looking for shorts, right? Was it just random? No, right? I basically found myself looking at my technical analysis, number one. Number two will be market sentiment, right? And then number three, which will be in the future, will be my fundamentals, right? That is something that I am still learning how to read, right? Fundamentals. But as if now I am strictly looking at my technical analysis and I'm looking at market sentiment. My market sentiment told me that, you know what, we are going to find ourselves seeing somewhat of a strong shift back to the downside. As you can see, we literally had, right? And as if now my market sentiment is basically telling me that, you know what, some longs has been accumulated, right? So what I will find myself doing is start prepping for some longs to find itself coming through for this coming week. All right, so once again, technical analysis. Let's tap into the weekly time frame, right? Now, we did find ourselves boxing out this area over here, this BOB. As we can see that we are currently finding ourselves tapping within our BOB, right? So there is that possibility for us having that actual shift back towards the upside when it comes down to the NASDAQ. All right, so there is that possibility. Now, this was our point of interest. Is this current area tested or untested? At this current moment, it is tested, right? Simply because we are now finding ourselves tapping within our actual BOB. Now, the next thing that I will find myself doing is look at points of interest which is untested, right? So the first area will basically be this fair value gap we have found ourselves creating over here, which I will find myself boxing out just like that, right? Secondly, will be this BOB, or thirdly will be this BOB we have found ourselves creating right over here. Okay, but I'm taking it step by step, magnet by magnet. All right, so why this fair value gap? Is it tested or untested? By now you guys should know I'm always looking for untested areas, right? And we can see once we find ourselves creating this fair value gap, no wick has been thrown within this area over here, so this simply means that this area is untested, right? Which is serving in my eyes as a magnet to where price can find itself heading back into. All right, so it's getting to our daily time frame, looking at what we have found ourselves creating right over here with price. Now on my daily time frame, I am going to start finding myself looking for some long opportunities to find itself coming through, right? And my first point of interest when it comes down to the longs will basically be this gap we have found ourselves creating over here, right? Maybe if I can go on a lower time frame first and then come back on the daily time frame, right? Can you guys see that we have found ourselves creating a gap right over here? That little gap, right? And if I can maybe find myself doing the following. Box it out just like that and just head back to my daily time frame, right? And just leave it like that. Boom. So this will basically be the overall area to where I would like to see us head back into when it comes down to our long opportunity. All right, so this gap over here will basically serve as a volume imbalance, right? Obviously it's not a volume imbalance since we did find ourselves coming back up and we fold it again, right? But this volume imbalance is still serving as an actual area of current resistance for me, right? Because if you are gonna find yourself heading all the way back into your technical analysis when it comes down to price, is whenever you are gonna find yourself, I'm gonna leave that for you as homework, right? Whenever we are finding ourselves creating a gap, right? Let's say for instance price is opening up, we're creating a gap right over there, right? And we are finding ourselves filling the gap. Price 9 times out of 10 come all the way back down, back into the gap, and then have a further continuation move back towards the upside, right? Same thing when it comes down to the downside momentum. If we are finding ourselves creating the gap, and we come all the way back down, right, filling up the gap whatsoever. We come all the way back up into it, and then we have a further continuation move back towards the downside as well, right? And then another thing that is finding itself happening, if the gap was towards the downside and we fill up the gap to the upside, right, 9 times out of 10 price will find itself coming all the way back down. Look at it as an actual area of support, and then have a further continuation move back towards the upside, right? Same thing when it comes down to our upside momentum. If we find ourselves creating the gap, right, and price is finding itself, well, if we are creating the gap and price is finding itself filling up the gap, right, we come all the way back down, back into it, and have a potential further continuation move back towards the upside, right? And the day where you can find yourself doing that back testing will basically be on a Monday, as 9 times out of 10 on a Monday we are finding ourselves creating a gap. So you know what, that can be homework for you to go back test, right? So this volume imbalance, since we have found ourselves creating it right over here, and it is still quite fresh, also lining up with an area of supply right over there, this will be my actual overall long opportunity target to where I would love to see the Nasdaq find itself heading back into. All right, from current PA, it is currently around about, let's see, it is around about 500 plus pips towards the upside. That is more than enough playground for us to find ourselves taking advantage for the longs opening up, right? Now, when it comes down to our price action at our lows, right, this is basically where I will be a little bit more cautious. So I will find myself being a little bit on the edge, right, not finding myself risking too much. I'm gonna find myself taking it quite easy, right? And this is the main reasoning why. Let's scale to our 4-hourly time frame and let's see what's up. All right, so on our 4-hourly time frame, once again, a beautiful example. Check this out. We find ourselves creating a gap. Look at that. We created the gap, boom, we filled the gap, boom, we came back for the retest within the gap, and there we had the shift back towards the upside, right? So that is the main reasoning to why I'm looking at my daily time frame as an actual example as well, right? For something like this to find itself happening. All right, so looking at my 4-hourly time frame, we can see that we had an overall beautiful shift back towards the downside. Now let's look at market structure first of all. Okay, let's look at market structure. Now, can you guys see, right, once we found ourselves creating this gap over here, we had a shift back to the downside. Did we come back for the retest? Yes or no? Yes D, no D. We haven't, right? We haven't, because there's no candle that found itself coming all the way back up, back into this area. There's no wick that found itself coming all the way back up, back into this area. And just by looking at this area over here, right, is there somewhat of a signal telling you that this is a point of interest to where we can potentially find ourselves heading back into? Yes, right? Check this out. We have a high, we have a higher high. Price then found itself creating a lower low, right? So this whole area over here will serve as your breaker, right? We created a breaker. Did we find ourselves coming all the way back up to come and retest the breaker? No, we haven't. All right, no, we haven't. Okay, cool. We established that, right? Within this gap over here, this little red candle coming through over there, right, is serving as an area of supply, right? If I can box it out, boom. It's serving as an area of supply. Let me give it a different color. Well, a different color, boom, right? That little region, this little box over here is serving as an area of supply. All right, and once again, did we find ourselves coming back for the retest, right? No, we haven't, right? We had the closure below with this down close candle over there. Is there any wick thrown back into this area? Yes or no? No, right? Is there any candle thrown back into this area? Yes or no? No, right? So this is also an untested area. All right, now let's look at traditional market structure now. All right, so we found ourselves having a high. We found ourselves creating a higher high. Okay, we found ourselves having a low. Over here, we find ourselves having a low. We then find ourselves creating a what? A lower low. Have we found ourselves coming all the way back up to find ourselves having a lower high, right? And 9 times out of 10, when we find ourselves looking for somewhat of a retest, we always look at the previous area that served as an area of support to be a potential area to where we can find ourselves coming all the way back up to serve as a potential area of resistance, right? So there is a whole lot of confluences telling us that this is a point of interest to where the Nasdaq should find itself coming all the way back up, right? So my sentiment is telling me that, you know what, I should start looking for some longs, and that is exactly what I am gonna find myself doing. All right, now let's look at let's look at below price, right, for some potential points of interests. All right, so first of all, this whole area is serving as my BOB, which we have found ourselves boxing out, right? So what I will find myself doing is just simply reducing my box like that, right? We all do know that the BOB is basically coming from a weekly time frame, right? And below price over here, we have a point of interest, okay, right there. This is serving as an area of demand, okay. Let's just box that out for you. This is serving as an area of demand. Now, since this whole BOB is coming through on our weekly time frame, let's say for instance over the course of Monday, Tuesday, whatsoever, we still see somewhat of downside momentum, right? And then we had a closure within this area. Does that mean that our BOB is now invalid? No, it doesn't, right? Why, D? Simply because if this area is going to be invalid, we need to see our weekly time frame having a closure below this BOB. Because when our weekly time frame is having that closure, then this BOB will serve as an area of supply for, you know what, having a potential further continuation move back towards the downside. Then we most probably will find ourselves looking at this magnet as the next target, right? But as if now, if we are going to see, even on Monday, if we see a closure below this area, right, it does not mean that the BOB is invalid. All right, we do simply have more magnets below price. Okay, so first point of interest will basically be this area over here, which we have found ourselves creating, this area of demand we have found ourselves creating over here. And then we also did find ourselves boxing out this area, right? This area. And keep in mind that this line is basically the fair value gap we find ourselves boxing out as well, right? Now we can see that we have some equal lows coming through at this region over here, right? And right below the equal lows, we also have another BOB basically hiding itself right over here. So this will be my second point of interest, which I will find myself having, right? And this point of interest is basically finding itself lining up within our fair value gap. Okay, fair value gap, keep in mind, don't forget that the fair value gap is also an untested area. All right, it's also an untested area, and now we can basically see that we have a BOB lining up within our untested area, which will serve as an area to where we can potentially see somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside, right? My third area will basically be this BOB right over here. Let me just box it out as well. It might be like, yo, D, that's a lot of points of interest. Yeah, that's a lot, right? But this will be my third one, right? So first, second, third. All right, just keep that in mind. But I will find myself just removing these ones simply because I want my charts to look quite clean, right? But you have to have in the back of your mind your actual areas to where you would love to see price have somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside too. Okay, now D, why did you remove that one? We do already know that we are finding ourselves tapping within an actual BOB. Okay, so whenever I'm gonna find myself seeing somewhat of an actual change in structure, right? Having that shift back to the downside, having somewhat of an actual change in structure, right, then I will find myself looking for some beautiful long opportunities, right? Now the 1 hourly time frame actually had a beautiful, if you can see this change in structure happening on your 1 hourly time frame, just know that you are finding yourself having a beautiful trade opening up, right? Check this out. Before we had that 1000 shift back to the downside, look at that change in structure. We had the high, we created a higher high. Here we had the correction. We came all the way back down, created a lower low, came all the way back up for the retest. Where did we say where should our stops be? Our stops should be above this high, or if you want to find yourself playing it safe, should be that high, right? Because we don't want to see price break that area. Did we find ourselves doing that or break the area? No, we haven't, right? And there we had a beautiful shift back towards the downside. So ultimately, I am finding myself just looking out for something like that to open up for this week, right? Or coming week as well. So me, Diego, I am finding myself starting to look for some long opportunities to find itself opening up, right? Me, Diego, I am finding myself looking for some longs. You on the other side, let me know in the comment section, what is your outlook when it comes down to the NASDAQ? I am curious to know. Until the next one, it's me, your boy D. I'm out.